Hello everyone, Everyday Oppression here with yet another video. So I'm just going to tackle a video done by Ash Hardell, everyone's favorite know-it-all and be-all when it comes to gender and gender alphabet soup. Roll intro. I should totally do this with my hoodie up. I look like a Sith Lord.
Yay! Open Google Docs, grab my book.
Oh, she has a book now.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the ABCs of LGBT+.
Or alphabet soup.
These are videos where I read portions of my book because I think it's interesting and makes good content.
And you're trying to sell your own book. Great marketing.
My favorite content, actually.
I'm not surprised there.
Pronouns are words used to refer to nouns when not specifically using a noun's proper name. And this time we're going to talk about androsexuality, gynosexuality, masexuality, and womosexuality.
What?
And today the term/identity we're going to unpack is gender confusion.
Yeah, you guys are certainly making gender very confusing, aren't you?
Before we dive into hella cool queer things though, I want to thank one of my favorite apps ever for sponsoring this episode, Best Fiends.
You're promoting something so that you can get marketing so you can get money out of this. Great. All right, keep going.
Y'all know I'm addicted. I've talked about Best Fiends before because I'm obsessed. For those of you unfamiliar, Best Fiends is a free puzzle adventure game where you collect and upgrade characters by matching same colored objects, and in doing so, you defeat icky, grimy, gross slugs.
You know, there's a term for people like you.
You are nothing but a whore!
One's even grosser than those found in the Upside Down. And this month,
This is still going? I'm here to see what GreyGender is and the ABCs of LGBT, but you're just selling a goddamn app game. Like, come on. Oh my fucking Christ, you haven't shut up about this. Fucking get to the point. We had almost 2 minutes of product placing, ladies and gentlemen. Get to the fucking point.
and now back to gay stuff. Today we're going to be talking about just a couple not cis gender identities.
Oh yes. Identity, politics, great. I can't wait to hear about all the other confuddleness and words and labels that you like to toss out and you think that all the queer people just follow. 100%. Let's go.
Super fun fact, if you didn't know, there are lots of ways to not be cis. Too often the media portrays not IDing solely with your gender assigned at birth.
I hate this gender assigned at birth bullshit. You are either born a male or a female with penis or vagina. This is how gender is determined based on our sex. So again, gender is not 100% social construct, okay? It has to come from somewhere.
In just one way. As being trapped in the wrong body, as being binary trans, as wanting to medically transition in every way possible.
You have to stop and think about this, because if they're trying to say that gender is 100% socially constructed, meaning society is brainwashing us, and has nothing to do with our sex, then why are transgender people taking hormones and surgery or genital manipulation when it is affecting their body? Like, they are changing their body to match their gender, which is a social construct. How is this not biological?
That is not always the case, though. There are so many ways to not be cis. And today, two very special not cis guests are going to tell you about how they experience and express their gender. First, there's KB, who's non-binary.
Non-binary does not exist. Moving on.
For those of you who haven't heard of this identity before, non-binary is both a specific identity and an umbrella term for genders outside the gender binary.
Both a specific identity, but something that is outside the gender binary. So wouldn't that mean that it's not specific at all? And it's an umbrella term. So right now, you are literally contradicting your non-binary definition. Ugh, this hurts my brain.
A non-binary person could be neither man nor woman, multiple genders simultaneously, flowing between genders, or something entirely different.
You're not entirely different. You are either male or female, or possibly intersex with some form of deformity when it comes to your biology. Now, intersex people are a rarity. This is why we call it a deformity. This is why it's not the norm. And being a non-binary person, there is some basis in your sex being either male or female. Okay, so like,
It's just not exclusively solely the binary. It's not just man or just woman. Now, being non-binary can be a totally different experience for different people who identify that way. But this is how KB describes the experience for them.
When I grew up, there were no words for non-binary identities.
I could have danced all night. I could have danced all night and still have begged for more.
You were one thing. Boy or girl.
yeah, because there's only two genders.
And anything in between that was just a personal trait that you had.
And what's so wrong with that?
Like how tomboys were boyish and boys could be girlish. And honestly, for most of my life, I identified with my birth assignment. Non-binary for me is something that I personally had to discover. It wasn't put on a plate for me to eat. And it wasn't an answer to a very hard question. Non-binary is more of an extension of who I am. It doesn't define my interactions, my feelings, or what I do on Sundays. It's just a feeling.
It's just a feeling. You heard it, ladies and gentlemen. Genders are feelings. Right. So if a child one day feels like they're a unicorn, I guess their gender just automatically changes to a unicorn.
Pink fluffy unicorns dancing on rainbows.
Right.
Like how when I finally got glasses, I discovered that the stars flicker and the moon had shadows.
You needed glasses to determine that? Really?
These things that had been there this whole time, and I just discovered them. I consider non-binary to be less of an expression of genders and more of an explanation of them.
But you just said a moment ago that gender was about feelings, and expression is a word synonymous with feeling, and now you're saying it's an explanation. Okay, explanation would include logic, fact, truth, objectifiable things that are real and so that everybody can look at, and this is why we have an explanation. Expression is more subjective, which would fall under feelings, so you already don't know what you're talking about.
I kept searching for something that made me feel like myself. I was never just one thing.
We're all never just one thing. The thing about certain LGBT people and trans people is that you feel that you are, enclosed or encaged into one defining thing. Your sexuality doesn't define you, right? Your skin color doesn't define you. Your sex doesn't define you, okay? It is a part of you on a mass scale. There are other things that describe you as a person, your ideas, your compassion, your creativeness, like your relationships with friends and family. Like there is a smorgasbord of things. Why do you guys feel like this one thing defines you? You need to get out more. I swear to God.
And now that I can identify with something that can regard multiple identities, bigender, agender, etc.
Bigender, agender, etc. There's only two. Holy shit. Why do you need to create new fucking words for the exact same fucking thing? Like, just keep it simple.
I now have a word that I can help people understand that I'm not just a box with a check mark inside the one that matches my genitals.
See, again, with this constant need to break forth, to be your true self, right? So, like, why you think you're a special snowflake, right? And you just need to break free and fly with your little rainbow wings up into the horizon. Like I'm an artist, okay? And I had been very imaginative growing up, but I understood that was about creativity and releasing of imagination and thoughts. I mean, creativity is needed, but when you apply creativity, to the real world, you're conflating these things and you're making things a lot harder. These are two separate things. Stop conflating them.
I identify with non-binary, but I'm sure I haven't figured out everything about it.
Yeah, nobody has, because you guys keep making up new shit as you go.
And that's okay. After all, I still go by my birth pronouns and I still use my assigned gender. The only difference now is I have a word for who I am. And for me personally, non-binary is a word that helps me understand me just a little bit more.
Awesome. Stop forcing it in legislation and criminalizing people who may accidentally or refuse to use your preferred pronouns. Take care of yourself, and the rest of us will take care of each other's own baggage over there.
Now Grace, my wife, that's so fun to say, wife,
Did you just assume her gender?
is a bit different. Grace IDs as GreyGender.
What? GreyGender. Let's look up the word gray, shall we?
I could have danced all night, I could have danced all night, and still have begged for more.
And GreyGender is an identity that involves having a weak sense of gender or being somewhat apathetic about one's gender identity and or gender expression, etc.
Okay, so you are now equating gender with a color. Now, I'm a little bit interested in how we treat gray, the word gray, and the color gray as an emotion or as an expression, because as we all know, gender is
Just a feeling.
gray in the sense of conformity. Gray is the color of conformity, not having any personality of its own. It adapts to any other color. It will look either dark or light depending upon the color next to it. What about boredom? In Europe and America, gray is the color most associated with boredom, solitude, and emptiness. It is associated with rainy days and winter, reflection, and uncertainty. Wow, this is sounding really positive, isn't it? One of the rare positive associations of gray is with mental power and reflection with the brain. Hey, the brain, which is biological, which is part of your sex. Therefore, gender is an extension of sex. Gray and blue, when put next to each other, have a positive association of reflection, while gray, white, and blue put together are associated with science. Science! Gray is also the color most associated with uncertainty. A gray area is a subject covered by a law or policy where there is lack of clarity. Okay, so basically, if you feel gray, you're in a gray area, which is uncertainty, boredom, conformity. So really, this doesn't make anybody special when the color gray itself means that you are conforming with the rest of the group. So, but you're going to say how wonderfully special and unique the GreyGender is, aren't you?
Being meh.
Did she just describe gender identification and justified it with the word meh?
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
You just described a gender as meh. Do you realize what's wrong with this?
About gender things. While GreyGender people often do feel they have a gender, they may also feel disconnected from their gender, not overly involved in gender as a concept, not particularly invested in their gender.
Oh, so they're just lazy.
That their gender is very intermittent, maybe it comes and goes, or that their gender is just difficult to define.
No, it's either male or female. Two genders, not that hard.
Now, unlike KB, Grace didn't write a blurb about her gender for my book, but here she is being caught off guard while I ask her about it.
Did you get her to consent first, Ashley? Marital rape is a problem, don't you know?
Grace. What does being GreyGender mean to you? In a semi-concise way.
You know, your wife here is actually a decent looker. It doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with her. However, I do think that she's kind of blah. I see her as blah. Is that blah gender?
You can do it.
To me, I guess it means that I don't have the greatest grasp on my gender,
You're female. Easy.
or in that I sometimes don't really just care about it too much. I'm kind of, I don't know, ambivalent to it.
Apathetic. Wonderful.
I guess a big part for me personally is that my parts.
It's called your genitalia. You can say it. Vagina.
my parts. They just don't play a huge role in my gender.
I just don't know. I don't know.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
That makes sense.
No, it doesn't make sense at all. Actually, it makes sense in the sense that they have no idea what they're talking about, but, you know, keep going.
Yeah,
I love you.
I love you too.
Did she just shove the camera in her wife's face without her consent? Ashley, why are you raping your own wife?
Thank you, Grace and KB. I invite all these guests, by the way,
All these guests? 2. Just 2.
in an attempt for these genders and these identities to become more real and more humanized for you guys.
Oh, I see now. I love it when people use the word humanized or humane or humanizing. Because anybody who would disagree with this narrative now, say for me, for instance, arguing that gray gender is not really a thing and that there are only 2 genders stemmed from our biology, okay? By disagreeing with you, I'm somehow inhumane. This I cannot tolerate. I'm so sick and tired of people using their language in order to obviously make it a black and white world, good versus evil, and that their side is good because it's humane, it's humanized, and we're all cuddly wuddly and all that junk, and everything's about our feelings of meh.
I want you to understand they're not just definitions that exist somewhere in a book or on Tumblr.
Really? You know what? Her book here, I'm actually kind of interested in, like, who published this book? Who decided to publish this book and that it was a good idea? Let's look it up. So, Mango Media Publishing. What a name. Let's look up their website. Here we go. Yeah, it's based in beautiful Miami, Florida. Let's check out some of their books, shall we? That's great. Oh, Planking for Pizza. Yeah, a body positive guide to a confident, healthy, happy you. Well, at least you're getting exercise, sweetheart. I don't know about this at all. This looks like Glamour magazine crap. I have no interest in these books whatsoever.
I am not amused.
But in fact, there are real people behind them. There are humans who feel this way and claim these identities.
Again, we're all humans. You don't have to emphasize the fact that they're still people. They're regular people, and you need to show us compassion because we're human beings. You get away with this gray area. Notice how I use gray there. You get away with this umbrella term of trans people, LGBT and all that, because you can get away with this shit. No, you don't have any substantial evidence to define these new genders except for feeling meh. Nobody can really argue that because you have nothing of substance for other people to grab a hold of in order to challenge your ideas. So by staying in this gray area, JC, you're really knocking them out of the park, aren't you? So because you stay in this area, you're safer this way. Which means that you can walk out of this argument if anybody so chooses to debate you.
So to wrap things up, there is more than one way to not be cis. And in the end, people should do and claim whatever identity affirms their gender and makes them comfortable.
Gender is not a feeling. Gender is not synonymous with emotions. These are 2 very different things. Why do you guys conflate the 2 together? Meh.
If you liked this content, a lot of it was verbatim from my book. So
let's check her out, shall we? What kind of stuff does she actually have in this book? What? Okay, bi-curious, bi-gender, I've heard about that one. KFAB. Kamab? Coercively assigned female at birth and coercively assigned, male at birth. Pardon me, I'm sorry. Demisexual. A person who only experiences attraction to people with whom they have formed a strong emotional bond. What? That's like anybody. That doesn't need a term. That's just feeling love and devotion and trust for someone. That's not a gender identity. What? Diamoric. A non-binary person may identify as dimoric to emphasize their own non-binary identity and their attraction to, that's just too wordy. What's this one? NB. This is a slang term meaning a non-binary person. NB? But yet, where the hell did that come from? Gay, gender. Oh my fucking god. Look at all these gender words. What is wrong with these people? Maverick. She has Maverick. Maxi gender. Someone who experiences many and sometimes all available genders to them. Is that sort of like a maxi pad or... So maxi gender, like, if you can't determine how many goddamn genders there are, if somebody feels all available genders to them, does that mean that they feel 76 genders at once? That's like mind explosion. Multigender, polygender. Someone who experiences more than one gender. You only have one gender, sweetheart. You can't have multiple ones. Sorry to tell you. Novasexual romantic. A person whose attractions change based on the genders they are experiencing. Like what? No womosexual? No womosexual? That's even hard to pronounce. Someone who is attracted to anyone who isn't a woman. So you're either straight or gay. See, you're using a lot of these terms that are both about sex and sexuality. It's not gender at all. Like, I don't know. Policing. The imposition of norms or personal beliefs by way of telling others how they should or should not identify, behave, or express themselves. So when the trans community is forcing people to accept their pronouns, is this a form of policing? Or it's okay when you do it? Privilege. Oh, let's read this one. Benefits and opportunities automatically afforded to majorities or non-oppressed groups of people that are usually unnoticed or taken for granted and occur at the expense of oppressed groups of people. Yes, Ashley, because you being a white cisgendered woman, technically, you are the oppressed group.
Go fuck yourself.
Kiwi sexual? Kiwi? What? A person who can't tell the difference between attractions they experience, is unsure if they experience attraction, and or doesn't think romantic and sexual attractions are relevant to them. So that would be asexual. I don't even want to... I can't even read the rest of this bullshit. Okay, so that was interesting. So this is in regards to GreyGender, as the title states, and all that she can describe it as is a feeling of meh. That's GreyGender, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're feeling blah one day, or maybe a little bit bloated, I can't really tell, you're experiencing a whole new gender. You know, I can guarantee you that I would never buy your book. I can also guarantee you that if I ever have any children and I am teaching them the differences between sex and gender and what sex and gender is, also sexuality, I'm going to keep it as simple as I can, because this alphabet soup that you have in your book, you are confusing the fuck out of kids. Okay, and the whole point is to make life simple and fun for children. So that's the first thing I would do, is not teach my children all these smorgasbords of words and all the craziness that are coming out of your head. And certainly that gender is not described with the word meh. So anyways, guys, I hope you had a fun time with this video. It hurt my brain. Thank God I had alcohol. I will see you all next time, and don't forget to take care of one another. You're gonna need it. Bye, guys.
Pink fluffy unicorns dancing on rainbows.